Hey guys, what is up? RedPandaMining here. How you guys all doing? I hope you're all doing really well and having a really great day. In this video, I want to talk about Zcoin. I haven't talked about Zcoin ever, and this is going to be, I guess, my first video. And the reason why I'm talking about Zcoin today is because they have been talking about changing their algorithm. Right now, it is MTP. And now they are thinking of moving towards either a RandomX, like Monero, or ProgPoW. So apparently there are issues with Zcoin at the moment, or MTP, the algorithm for mining at the moment. And I wanna read through some stuff here. So I actually did go to their meeting. They had a voice chat meeting on their Discord, which happened on February 1st. I'll have some information throughout this whole video so you guys can understand what their thought process is. And I also have a recording of Christy talking about, or AKA Oh God a Girl, talking about the reasons for ProgPoW and whatnot. So I have a little recording here, about 2 minutes, and at the end of the video, I will put this whole recording at the end of the video, so if you guys are interested. But let's first talk about the MTP, why they want to get rid of it. So I believe Ruben is one of the developers of Zcoin, and he says here, while MTP has served its purpose, it has a lot of flaws. In its first of all, an immense bandwidth hog as of 200 kilobytes proof need to be sent every share. It also consumes a lot of space on the blockchain as a 200 KB needs to be included in every block, even when it's empty. This leads to massive bloat. While much more ASIC resistant than previous designs, FPGAs with large memory banks are already a thing, and the idea of memory hardness being anti-ASIC may no longer hold true. Newer algorithms such as ProgPoW and RandomX have come about and have much better design to them. There is opportunity to rejig MTP, but we believe it's merely a stopgap solution, and we rather be focusing on algorithms where the work audit is already done rather than the devoting resources to reassessing MTP again or coming up with a new algorithm. While this is not an immediate priority, something we can look after, Lalentis, which I believe is a hard fork for updates and efficiencies, we wanted to gauge the community sentiment to an algorithm change. Okay, so they're saying GPU focus, so that would mean algorithms like ProgPoW, or CPU focus for RandomX, and ASIC friendly, and then too many to pick from, and something else altogether, optical proof of work. So I'll have a straw poll down below. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Should Zcoin move to ProgPoW, RandomX, or an ASIC friendly algorithm? Okay, now I want to show you guys just a little snippet of the Discord community voice chat that we all had. So this is what Christy had to say regarding ProgPoW.
So on to the reason of ProgPoW of implementation. So all of the work around ProgPoW and around the algorithm has actually been done. ProgPoW, to think in thinking about it, it's actually a framework, and it has 6 customizable dials, or sorry, 7, 5 of which are actually important. 2 that should be pretty much left alone. It depends. But these, we call them programmable knobs. And what you can do is you can change these values to create your own unique hash. So one of the things in proof of work algorithms is you never want to share a hash. You don't want to share a hardware user base either, but what happens is if you don't share a hash, at least when an ASIC is eventually built for your coin, because ASICs will always be built, your ASIC becomes dedicated to your network. So it was built with that in mind. The other thing is that you can actually set ProgPoW up to randomly change its parameters every X, where X can be whatever value you want. It can be every block, it can be every epoch, as it is in Ethereum. It could be every X amount of seconds or minutes or hours. So ProgPoW has 2 randomized parts to it. One is the random math inside of ProgPoW. That's going to change we have it set in the concept, proof of concept, which Ruben's linked. We have that set to every 10 blocks. You can customize it to whatever you want it to be. And then the other random portion is you can tune the parameters. So these parameters affect saturation of the GPU, they're going to affect power consumption of the GPU, and they're going to affect your hash rate on certain architectures. Right now on 0.9.3, they have been tuned to get 10 watts per hash as close as possible across every card type. So that means, if your card expends 90 watts, you're going to produce 9 mega hash. So that's really the tuning we've gone for. If you wanted to favor, a certain card type, or if you wanted to favor a certain generation, such as HBM2 cards, you can also tweak that. Tweaking only takes about 30 minutes. We wrote a guide on Medium.
Okay, my friends, so there was the little snippet from Oh God a Girl, who was explaining the ProgPoW and, what can be done on it and whatnot. The interesting part near the end was the 90 watts, or the 9 hashes per second, depending on across all cards, she mentioned there. So that was really cool. So 10 watts. And I guess what she really wanted was, leveling the playing field among all hardware. So that's interesting. That's interesting to note. Okay, my friends. So I'll have the rest of the recording near the end of the video. At the end of the video, I'll start it from the beginning, and you guys can listen to it. Okay, so that's Zcoin. That's where they are at right now. I'm sure they're gonna have a vote, but I want to do my community vote. For some of you guys that mine Zcoin on the MTP protocol right now, let me know what you guys think. I'll have a straw poll right down below. You guys just click on that and let me know what you guys would like, ProgPoW, RandomX, or ASIC from what they've been saying here. Okay, so I just wanted to really just end off that, it's not just Zcoin that's thinking about moving to a new algorithm like ProgPoW. Ravencoin as well, you guys may have saw the video yesterday. They're going to be thinking of moving to ProgPoW or ETHash, adding into their existing X16R, adding ProgPoW or ETHash into their X16R algorithm per se. So, as well as I just wanted to quickly look at the Zcoin, the pools, the hash rate. Okay, so as of recently, the price of Zcoin did go up. All right, the price of Zcoin went up considerably. It's kind of came down, but the network difficulty of Zcoin has gone up. Okay, so that's interesting to note. And then the hash rate on, let's say 2 miners has 81% of the network hash rate right now. So not very decentralized, but as we know, I don't think there's any ASICs or major FPGAs or any FPGAs on the network currently, because I believe there's no incentive. From what I was reading or what I was hearing from the meeting, and from what Christy said and Ruben said in the voice chat, that MTP, there's no incentive, and also there's no other algorithm, there's no other coin out there that's using MTP. Okay, so it doesn't make sense for an ASIC manufacturer to make an MTP ASIC. Okay, so but interesting, I guess the main reasons why they want to move to a new algorithm is because of the bandwidth and the massive bloat that they say that the current algorithm has on the blockchain, okay, for Zcoin. Okay, and finally, just a quick note, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic isn't going to implement ProgPoW. They already said that. But Ethereum, as we know, they've talked about implementing ProgPoW, and for reasons that we know already, like ASICs and maybe this Lindsay company who apparently ordered 37 wafers, their 1400 mega hash ASIC miner, really efficient, like 10 times more efficient than a GPU mining rig. I think I've talked about this before. But the ProgPoW audits have already been done, okay? So according to Ethereum cat herders, the software audit from Least Authority has been done. Bob Rao did the hardware audit, okay? And as well in the Berlin hard fork, okay? It's supposed to be, it's tentatively an accepted EIP, okay? So ProgPoW, as you guys can see here, for the Berlin hard fork, which is supposed to apparently happen around June of this year, apparently. I'm not sure how true this article is, but on AMB Crypto, but this is the only thing I can see, and I've heard of people saying yes, Berlin hard fork for Ethereum will implement all of these EIPs here, including ProgPoW, a pragmatic proof of work. Okay, so I'm still trying to keep up with all of this information regarding from different sources, and I'll keep you guys updated for that for Ethereum. I think they should just do it. Okay, they're just beating around the bush far too long for Ethereum. But it's interesting that Zcoin and Ravencoin are thinking of implementing ProgPoW now. So this is an interesting topic for sure. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you go vote in the straw poll down below of if you think Zcoin should accept this or should implement ProgPoW or any other algorithm mentioned here. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, and peace out.
In an ideal world, you would have something very similar to a DAG that just forces miners to upgrade to the next generation hardware rather than hoarding older hardware. So one of the problems with proof of work is if you have this hardware that can be picked up on the cheap when it becomes last generation, the capex investment in proof of work gets skewed unfavorably.
Yep.
So given the proof size issue with MTP and the fact that Zcoin really does want to attract GPU miners and wants to attract, naturally a decentralized mining community, a few members of the Zcoin community asked, why not ProgPoW? And so I've offered to help implement that into Zcoin if the community would like that. And it's also going to be attached to a new initiative, which Ruben and I came up with, which is proof of pizza. So, pay for development work, very expensive work in pizza, with the catch that the pizza is brought in the native cryptocurrency of the chain. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Number two, how easy is it to build an ASIC for ProgPoW? And number three, looking at the cryptographic math portion of ProgPoW. So we use a random math loop called KISS99, and that has been audited. No problems found with that. The other portion is we use a Ketchak hash, which is not according to spec. And all we've done is we've added padding to the end of Ketchak so that it lines up for implementation purposes. And there's no actual issue with that. So we've gotten a statement by the Ketchak team as well that there's absolutely no issues.
Okay, so there are a few questions. So Parmin was a bit concerned. So Parmin's the founder of Zcoin. He's a bit concerned that, what's the development time that is required for it? Because obviously, one of the kind of nightmares that we had was we spent so much time on MTP only to find that it's not the dream algorithm that we want, and the only reason why we would be considering ProgPoW, I mean, like between you and me, we were talking, was that because the work has already been done. So I guess it'd be good to have like an update as to why what's the state of development of ProgPoW, how difficult would it be to be integrated into Zcoin, and secondly, why not RandomX? And yeah, these are the two questions so far. Yeah.
Sure. So let me target RandomX first, that question first. So you don't want to compete with Monero for all of the CPU hardware. You're never going to win on that competition. Right now, you may in 2 to 3 years, but not right now. So by adopting RandomX, you are just competing with Monero on a hash rate. If the community thinks they can win that fight, sure, but I don't think it's a very good fight to win.
Oh yeah, Maga's good. Please take the notes. So what do you mean by
yeah.
compete? Like you were
So-
talking of
So yeah,
because go on.
In mining, you're competing for one type of hardware base, right? So your only options are either GPUs, CPUs, FPGAs, or ASICs. If you adopt RandomX, you need to make sure that you're using your own custom parameters for a start. But then you're going to be competing with Monero on all of that CPU user base. So when a miner decides whether they're going to mine Monero or Zcoin, most CPU-based miners, they're actually, GPUs paired with the CPU. So they're trying to just mine whatever is the most profitable. And right now, Monero will always win on that profitability choice. They might put their GPUs to Zcoin, but they won't necessarily put their CPUs to it. Some people have concerns about the botnets on Monero. I actually don't. Sorry, the botnets with RandomX. I actually don't have a concern. I have a unique viewpoint on that, simply because I've observed how the botnet operators act on Monero. They're actually good stewards of the network. They invest in pools, they invest in projects, they do actually help the network, but that aside, it's not very good for optics. I think if the community does want to adopt RandomX, it's just a choice. Which kind of hardware do you want to favor? Do you want to favor GPUs or do you want to favor CPUs? There's no right or wrong answer. Monero had a vision of having, mining happen on every single mobile phone, and they believe strongly in mobile phone mining. So that was really why RandomX was created. And so it's a choice by the community.
Hmm.
So on to the reason of ProgPoW of implementation. So all of the work around ProgPoW and around the algorithm has actually been done. ProgPoW, to think in thinking about it, it's actually a framework, and it has 6 customizable dials, or sorry, 7, 5 of which are actually important. 2 that should be pretty much left alone. It depends. But these, we call them programmable knobs. And what you can do is you can change these values to create your own unique hash. So one of the things in proof of work algorithms is you never want to share a hash. You don't want to share a hardware user base either, but what happens is if you don't share a hash, at least when an ASIC is eventually built for your coin, because ASICs will always be built, your ASIC becomes dedicated to your network. So it was built with that in mind. The other thing is that you can actually set ProgPoW up to randomly change its parameters every X, where X can be whatever value you want. It can be every block, it can be every epoch, as it is in Ethereum. It could be every X amount of seconds or minutes or hours. So ProgPoW has 2 randomized parts to it. One is the random math inside of ProgPoW. That's going to change we have it set in the concept, proof of concept, which Ruben's linked. We have that set to every 10 blocks. You can customize it to whatever you want it to be. And then the other random portion is you can tune the parameters. So these parameters affect saturation of the GPU. They're going to affect power consumption of the GPU, and they're going to affect your hash rate on certain architectures. Right now on 0.9.3, they have been tuned to get 10 watts per hash as close as possible across every card type. So that means, if your card expends 90 watts, you're going to produce 9 mega hash. So that's really the tuning we've gone for. If you wanted to favor, a certain card type, or if you wanted to favor a certain generation, such as HBM2 cards, you can also tweak that. Tweaking only takes about 30 minutes. We wrote a guide on Medium called Understanding ProgPoW, which shows you how to do this. You just open up a profiler, a GPU profiler. You fiddle around with the 5 different parameters in the code, and it's going to show you the total saturation on your GPU. And I can write probably a better guide because that one's 2 years old now. So all of the work on the algorithm is done. Implementation into Zcoin probably is going to take about 2 weeks, not too long. Most of what's going to happen is you gut out MTP entirely. You replace that with ProgPoW. I think we need to I need to take a look at the Zcoin code base, but we need to patch up the wallet and patch up the, I don't know if you have a separated node and wallet, but patch up all of that. And then we need to slot this into a pool implementation as well. So the pool implementation is the tricky part. Traditionally, pools they're just going to be pretty dumb. In a ProgPoW scenario, the pool is going to change the parameters that I talked about, every X, where the X is whatever the community chooses. I would recommend every 10 blocks. You can go every block if you really choose, but there may be issues with synchronization of time. Maybe 3 blocks is better. And I think that is everything. Are there any other questions on that?
The one of the questions was, what's why not like an epic cache type of style where you have some CPU, some RandomX and some ProgPoW, and yeah, I think that's the main question right now.
Sure. So the reason why you don't do that is the same reason Ravencoin isn't using RandomX. So RandomX is quite slow in its hash rate, which means it actually becomes a bottleneck and it's going to affect your block time negatively. So the difference between RandomX and ProgPoW in terms of hashes and block time is almost a factor of 10. So when you combine those two, you're going to have variances in your block time. It's not good for your blockchain in general. This is the reason why we are not using RandomX at all in Ravencoin for the new algorithm change.
Okay. The other thing is that, because remember you mentioned that if we implement ProgPoW, if we implement RandomX, we'll be competing against Monero. Even if we tweak the parameters, we'll still be competing for the same hardware set, right? But obviously, when we switch to ProgPoW, if we switch to ProgPoW, we'll be competing for GPUs, right? And who are the major players in the space for GPU mining currently? And I noticed that I don't know what's the current status of Ravencoin. Ravencoin, I think is ranked 40. So if they implement ProgPoW, they would probably be the dominant coin using ProgPoW. Are there any issues with that?
Yeah, so let me first explain how Ravencoin is handling this. Ravencoin wants to keep the spirit of X16R alive, which means that ProgPoW would actually just be one of the algorithms slotted into the Ravencoin algorithm. They really want to keep their 16 randomized rolls of the dice. This is something that Tron wants, that I want, that a lot of the community wants. Your hash algorithm is your unique fingerprint. It's why miners actually come to your chain. Things to be cautious of is if Ethereum does adopt ProgPoW, you would compete with them. However, you are already competing with Ethereum today for GPU mining. The wonderful thing about GPUs is that most of the community that's currently on Zcoin are GPU miners. GPU miners are, speculative by nature, so a lot of them actually come onto coins that might not be the most profitable, either because they believe in the vision of the coin or, they're interested in accumulating it for other reasons. I mean, there's many reasons that GPU miners go and do that. You don't actually find that same sort of footprint in CPUs because most of the CPU miners are running on these low-end embedded devices, or they're running on existing servers. They're running on hardware where, it's more either enterprise or it's more, I'm trying to stay away from using the word botnet, but I can't think of the word, so botnets. It is a concern. There's no good answer. You are going to be competing with GPUs anyway, but the good news is that there are so many more GPUs compared to CPUs in mining. So we can take Ethereum, for example, or even better, I can share some stats from the last analysis I did a month ago. Currently, there are 23 million GPUs mining cryptocurrency today. That is a huge base. If you even just capture 1 million of that, you're in pretty good hands.
Yep. One of the questions from Sterol was apparently Veil is using RandomX and ProgPoW, is that right? And you're consulting for them, and yeah.
I love how people think I'm working for everyone in the world. No, I'm not consulting for Veil. They've asked me some questions about ProgPoW. Consultancy implies that someone's paying me money. No one's paying me money for that. They're not even paying me in pizza. So I'm very disappointed in this. So yes, Veil is considering using ProgPoW and RandomX combination. So they have a 3-chain split, and they're doing something very similar to Cadena. Cadena, for those of you who don't know, not Cardano, uses this really cool 10x chain weave. It's super cool. Basically, if one chain gets full, they split or they shard over to another chain, and they spin it up with a new algorithm. Super cool design. So they're doing very much like the Digibyte route, where you say, hey, only a possible of 30%, or sorry, 33% of all hash rate can be RandomX, 33% ProgPoW, etc. It remains to be seen how it would play. If the Zcoin community really does want RandomX plus ProgPoW, I advise against it, but I'm happy to help out on the development side of that, implementing it into your coin. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the community's choice.
Right.
I advise against it very strongly, just because I understand the issues it can cause with block time. And in a privacy coin, your block time, your latency is incredibly important.
Chili's talking about proof of stake and ProgPoW. He's a big proof of stake fan. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're running around the 50-minute mark, but maybe you can just have a quick, like, why proof of work in maybe like 2 or 3 sentences.
Let's try why not proof of stake. Proof of stake requires you to spend your hard-earned fiat on a speculative asset. Many people are not going to do that. Many people in working class America can barely afford to pay their rent and their food and other basic necessities to live. A privacy coin needs to be used and adopted by everyone. And more importantly, you do not want your nodes, you do not want any sort of centralized forces in a privacy coin. So think about staking. That requires some big bag holder to actually run a staking node and maintain the network. Obviously, you're not going to have as many of those. In a proof of work ecosystem, literally anyone with a computer can just jump in and start contributing. You end up getting much more decentralized hash rate that way.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot. I'm sure it's really late there, and I do want to cover the other issues. But I'm sure you like hang out in a community, and I'll get if anyone has questions. And I guess once you put up your proposal, we'll have something a bit more meaty to dive into, and more people can weigh in upon that. So just a very quick overview, ProgPoW isn't a given yet. This is something that we've been discussing. And we see it as a one of the candidates for this because some people appreciate RandomX. The only thing that I would caution against RandomX is RandomX, like Loki, which is also another kind of privacy messaging focused coin. They implemented RandomX, and now a lot of you may not know, but Zcoin actually started as a CPU mineable coin, and it was something that Pormin actually really championed. And what actually happened there was we got really raked by botnets or people that were renting cloud hash rate, like basically just renting all these servers using like discounted AWS credits and stuff like that. And there was like people bragging about it and like, oh, how much money I made, and then they'll immediately dump it because they're making so much money, it just makes sense to just cash out. That was a real problem that we face, and we faced this for like a couple of months until that we had to move into a Lyra 2Z, which was more GPU favorable. So that's why we had such a bad experience with CPU mining. And perhaps that has changed now, but I have a feeling I don't think so. And one of the things that really made me not want CPU mining, I mean, this is my own personal opinion, is that when I spoke to Loki, they said that when they were one of the early coins that implemented RandomX even before Monero, and they experienced the exact same thing, that They said Simon Harmon, I think one of the project leads of Loki, was saying, looks like CPU mining is a lot more centralized than GPU mining. It's actually a lot worse. Our hash rate was dominated by like a couple of people with their server farms and their botnets, and it basically raped their network. So
I
because
can
of that,
attest to that.
yeah.
There's like there's 5 major CPU miners. It is incredibly centralized, more so than any secret ASIC I've ever seen. So yes, I can back that statement.
Yeah, so of course Monero, being a bigger coin, there are more of this, but I still think it is not an ideal level of decentralization. And the other thing was they basically got so pissed off that it looks like they're abandoning proof of work completely and moving to proof of stake. But this is just something that we really have to think about. And to me, like proof of stake is also really difficult because we have to change our supply model, and I don't really like to do that too much. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I don't want to spend because we have like 2 or 3 more updates that I want to talk about, and just maybe any 1 or 2 more questions there. If not, we can always ask later when Christy comes up with her